obviously, you guys can see have been found in many places. The one pictured right here is from one of the fans found in Tutankhamun's tomb when it was excavated, when it was found. So you have the, I don't think I put it here, but the fans when they were first found were in a little bit better condition, and it was alternating brown and white fans, brown and white feathers. So there were fans like that. They were made of either feathers or solid wood or fabric, and I actually have an example. I know it's not entirely period accurate, but a lot of the fans before it went to the Japanese looked something like this, or they were in a like square shape. You've got the solid feathers. This one doesn't close. It's got that handle, and it's very nice to either fan your. You probably can hear that. Sorry. Nice to to fan yourself, or you would have servants do it. And then the peacock feathers is also a very prominent design. You can either have it with like this one has, or has multiple, or later on, a little bit after period, it was very popular to have this shape of fan with a single peacock feather instead of all of the ones here. And it was usually dyed to match the dress that you wore that evening. So if you were wearing a blue dress like I am, you would have a blue one, or if you wore green, it would obviously be green. Okay, let's go back to the little handout so you guys can see. Okay, so the folding fan that is most common nowadays wasn't invented until the 16th century. That was when it moved from China into Japan more, and they were like, hey, this would be so much better if it folded. So they created the foldable fan, and then they went to the Portuguese, then picked that up and went, that's cool, and took it over to Europe, and that's how it became very prominent in what we see in period. And then I know I tend to talk really fast, so does anyone have any questions at this time?
I got one, Morgan.
Okay, yes.
I know when you were talking to me about this before, it looks like in your handout, your sentence is backwards.
It probably is. I do
Because you were telling me
apologize.
before that they made them in the 6th century, and it wasn't until, like, the known world didn't have it until later. It's
That
really
would
just
be
semantic.
correct. Thank you for clarifying the schematics. I do know that I mix numbers up sometimes, so thank you. Okay, moving on. So after it debuted in the quote-unquote modern world, the European age, it was adopted for both men and women. It was very nice to obviously fan yourself, but then it became more common to talk with your fan. So you would have secret communications. If you held your fan a certain way, if you gestured a certain way, it would say different things, and I'll touch about that later. I have a whole list of it. But there's also some conjecture as to why it became popular. Some sources that I found said it was due to the restricting social norms in Europe at the time, where ladies weren't supposed to be talking, and they found this way to talk without people really knowing what they were saying. Another source that I found said that it was more used when you had a chaperone. If you were a nice lady, you couldn't be left alone with a man, so you would have that secret way to talk to him without your chaperone knowing. And again, different sources say different things, so I can't really guarantee why it came about. And then I move on to around the 19th century, a fan maker and leather goods manufacturer. I'm pretty sure that's pronounced Duvilroy. I apologize, I'm so bad with names. He ran a store with goods that would, one of the things they manufactured was those fans. Now, I'm hiding that part of the screen. There we go. I couldn't find any earlier documentation talking about folding fans, but he apparently printed a leaflet how to use your fan to talk, and it became way more prevalent after that. I'm sure there was printings before then, but I just couldn't find any documentation of that. And then fan materials. I went over the ostrich ones, the feathers earlier. That was for, I'm gonna pause that thought and tell you when I am talking about the fan, the different parts of it. So you've got the guards, which is the outside. There's normally two, one right there and one right there. That would be protecting your fan when it was shut. You have the individual sticks that are going to be supporting the fan, all the good stuff. Oh yes, it is very pretty and purpley and it is shiny and I love it. All right, so back to what they were typically made out of in period. So in Japan, there was a specific Japanese cypress that was very popular. It's very light, it's lemon scented, it's a pretty color, it's kind of a pinkish brown and a straight grain. It was heat resistant and rot resistant, so it was really good to have as a daily basis so you wouldn't have to keep it up a lot. And then fun fact, there's a specific place in Japan where if you have the Japanese cypress trees grown there, you can use it for building a shrine. And I thought that was really cool. And I thought, hey, fun fact, you guys should know. All right, the other things that would have used to cover the fan that would be in between the guards and held up by the sticks was vellum, lace, paper, ivory, bone, and metal. That would the harder ones like the ivory, bone, and metal would have been the sticks, not necessarily what's actually used to go back and forth. There were also a lot of decorative materials like ivory, tortoiseshell. I'm not going to read that whole thing, it's right there. But that would have been along the guards or along the sticks that you have. And that would just be, hey, look at me and all the money I can spend on this cool hand item. All right, on into the types of fans. Most of the types of fans that I have are from the Japanese era, where the fans were, when the folding fan was originated from. So you've got a couple of ones that were used in warfare, the Gunsen, the Tensen, Gunbai, and it's different types of that. And there were mainly three. One was used for deflecting arrows, one was more of a daily thing, and then the other one, oh no, I made note of this and I don't know what it was. But there was another one. I do apologize for that. And then there was also the Omokogeki, which had 38 sticks and was connected by the rivet, and it had artificial flowers on the corner and very long streamers. It was mainly used for dancing. Like if you had a performance you wanted to do and you wanted to make it look really pretty, you had one of those fans. And that kind of leads into the Japanese dancing fan that I have listed right below. It had less sticks and more paper showing. It was usually a family crest. And I did some research into what some of those dancing fans would have looked like. And for I always say this wrong, geisha, they were a little more specific. They were, where'd my mouse go? It was usually white with a thick strip of red across the top. And I've done my best to recreate it on this pre-made white little fan, just so you guys could have an idea of it. And then on the other side, I have some of the stereotypical scenes that would have been on those fans at the time. So you've got pretty mountains with the colors, or you have pictures of wildlife like bamboo, or other ones will have like animals. It could be very descriptive depending on what you wanted to do and what class you were, like if you had the money for that. Thank you for going back and forth with me. And then those ones were pretty much made of the same thing. You have a little more prettiness to it. So as you go on, your fans are obviously going to need upkeep, and the upkeep became more of a feminine art. So if you had those old fans, it was usually up to a woman to be like, hey, let's take care of this fan. Guys kind of frowned upon. It's a lady thing, I guess. Okay, Another quick pause before I go into speaking with the fan. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. I see you waving your hand about, but I don't hear you. Technical difficulties?
Okay. Am I unmuted now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, I kept accidentally hitting the wrong button. This is not my computer. Ah. So you mentioned fans as feminine things.
So taking care of the fan was feminine. Both male and females of the time had it and used it.
Okay, that clears it up. Cool.
Oh yeah. Once it came into the upkeep of the fan, it was more falling upon the woman of the period to upkeep it. So like polishing it, making sure it was dry, making sure it looked good, all that good stuff.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Grania, yes. Unmute yourself.
Yes. Oh, I've seen they're modern, but it was very thinly, I want to say sliced, but little thin wood sticks that were carved and then put together, made out of sandalwood. Did you see anything with those?
Yes, so I sadly don't have any with me, but the sandalwood was a very popular, so instead of the fabric right here or the paper that is in this, it would have just been the sticks, just all the way through and a little bit more defined. I'm looking at the examples I have here, and I don't think I have one that shows that. Yeah, because that's just another simple, oh, this one will do better. So instead of having the nicely carved end right here replaced with fabric, this carved wood would have gone all the way up and have just been a little thicker when it gets to the top instead of the very thin support that you see right here. And it was commonly made out of sandalwood because it smelled good. Does that answer that question? Awesome sauces. I think they might have one. So if you would all look at Sada for a second, they're showing it off. All right, now I had originally designed this class to be in person, so I was gonna, oh yes, go ahead, Sada.
Did you already talk about them being impregnated with perfume?
I have not. That's not necessarily something that I have come across, but that definitely sounds definitely what they would do.
The sandalwood ones were very commonly perfumed. These, in fact, are perfumed.
That is awesome. I'm definitely going to look a little more into that. So I had originally designed this class to be in person, and I was going to hand out these fans and say, okay, guys, color on them. Let's do the motifs that I found, and then we can talk with them. So sadly, I can't hand you a fan and show you how to talk with it, but I can go over in the handout some very simple things. Also, keep in mind, there is a kind of fan where you like use paper and you just fold it up back and forth accordion style. While yes, that is a fan that is actually used in Japan for hitting people. So if you look at some of the TV shows in Japan, if someone has messed up, or in the anime, like the cartoons, if someone is doing something stupid or saying something inappropriate, they'll often get hit in the head with a very oversized, very funny looking, huge paper fan. Like the kind that you see as kids where you fold it back and forth and you fold the edge so it just forms a paper fan. And I thought that was fun, and I thought you guys should know too. All right, so speaking with your fan, there was a whole bunch, as you can see from this fan out handout, of just a whole bunch of everything and my resources. And this is only part of what I found for talking with the fan. So there's so many different things that you can do with it. Would you guys like to see me vainly attempt some of these and see if you can guess which one I'm doing? Okay, let's take off that.
So I can't see the images of people and the screen at the same time. Can anyone else?
Yes, I can. I can see both my screen and your screen, and while you were doing your class, I could see both as well. So let's see if I can walk you through how to find that. So if you go,
I'll figure it out. You continue with your class.
okay. I'm trying to figure out a way that I can have you guys see what I'm doing with the fan and still get that handout so you can guess what I'm doing. All right, we'll do it this way. I'll show you, unless, yes?
It was the way what you just had. You switched it.
Switch.
Just a minute ago, just a second ago, we could see both.
Oh, so if I do this?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know you guys could see me while I did this. I was just assuming you could only see the handout, so I've been over here going, ha, ha.
There should be a way up at the top to scroll through the people and see Morgan's camera. Or Jeanne's.
Let's see if I can go. All right, so I'm just going to pick one at random. Then you guys will try and guess which one I'm doing. Sound good?
Yes, get to the sexy fan talk.
Okay. Any guesses?
I do not like you.
Let's see. There's a couple of ways that could have been interpreted. So because I moved it back and forth, it could have been we are being watched. Because I'm holding it in my left hand and it's closed. Oh no, where'd I have it?
Yeah, I think it's I do not like you, right?
Yeah, that's what I read it as.
Your attitude also seemed to suggest as such.
Like,
Oh,
a
yes.
closed fan, like over by the left ear. I wish to get rid of you. Go
Yes,
away.
and that way you have to be careful, because if I hold it in my left hand and I'm just carrying it, it could be come talk with me, or if I hold it back here, it's I don't like you. So the subtleties are very there. So let's try a different one.
Oh, I love you too.
Haha. All right, and then the exact opposite is no. Oop, there's some chickadee chats. Come back here, chickadee chats. I can't look at you. A horrible history skit? I'm definitely looking at that afterwards.
Oh, that's great.
All right, let's get back there. And then I'm going to scroll a little bit so we have a little more options. Let's see. Is there a way to just... Not in here. Okay.
So that's open, but I can't see the open.
Oh, so I am opening it and looking at the design here. I should probably have done it like this. So if you are inspecting the design, it means I like you.
Oh, I see.
What kind of Victorian bullshit is that?
It's
Very.
people who didn't have text messaging.
And then
Emoji really has made the world better.
and I do wonder about the two right below that, the fanning quickly as I'm engaged and the fanning slowly as I'm married. I'm not sure if the engaged means that like they have a ring on their finger and they haven't like sealed the
Or if
deal
they're
yet,
busy.
or if they're like busy. And there was ones where like if you were at your house and you had either a window or a balcony in your room and if you were to go out with the window open with a fan and then quickly shut it and leave and shut the window, that meant I will be down shortly. But if you had the fan open and you left it open and walked back into your room and left the window open, that meant that I am not able to leave at this time. And I always thought that was a bit weird. Like, why go through all of those steps? Just leave the window open.
Because
Just
shouting
yell
is
down,
not
I want
ladylike.
the D.
Well, shouting is not ladylike.
Another one that I thought was a little interesting was do not forget me is to put your fan behind your head. And I don't really know under what normal circumstances back in period that would have been acceptable of
Yeah.
what kind
That
of lady.
pose, I don't know about you guys. That pose basically says, draw me like one of your French girls. Like, really, that's...
Just like, oh my.
Yes.
All right. And then was there anything that you guys last minute questions that you had? Because we are almost out of time.
Can you share your handout to the chat so people can...
Yeah, let me see how to do that. 'Cause on
If you
Google
can't, if you can share it in the Guacamole post.
Yeah,
somewhere.
if I could get some help, because I don't have a way to save it to my computer and then upload it. If I could get someone to save it to theirs
Can
and
you just
upload it.
shave the link? Shave the link. Can you save or copy the link? It's is it a Google Doc?
It is a Google document.
So go up to the right
Oh, there we go.
blue button that says sure.
Let's see if
You are missing out, Elizabeth.
I just put the link to it in the chat. So if someone
Yes,
would
I see
be
it.
willing to try it out and see if that works.
Got it.
Because if it was that simple, I would have just done it to begin with.
No, you're fine. Let me...
What you did was fine.
Oh,
I
and
can see it.
Da-da-da, it's done.
I apologize. To answer the era of fan talk that I'm looking at is a little past period. The references that I personally could find were from roughly around the French Revolution area, and then a little bit further back in history into Spain. But the one in Spain was completely opposite from what's in England. It's almost like it's a different language. So
That could go very poorly.
it could.
I am now imagining this beautiful comedy of errors in which she's just not that into you is the basic premise.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So one of the main websites that I used for this, let's see, it's called, I'll share the link so you guys can see it, because it's actually written in very pretty script and I cannot read it.
Okay, so I'm going to, Sada, if you also have things that you would like for people to be able to find, you can put it in under the, what am I trying to say? The post in Guacamole specifically about your guys' classes.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, I'll add it there.
Does anybody
I
want...
got it for you, Morgan.
Thanks.
But if Sada has something and wants to share, he can add it.
Does anybody want to know about Japanese fan language?
Yes.
It's
By
much
all
shorter.
means,
It's very
go
short.
for it.
So it's basically about being attentive to your connection with nature and fashion. So this is the winter pose because your fan is closed, but you're an elegant person, so who would be without a fan? But it's cold, so you're not going to have a fan open. This is spring pose, and this is summer pose.
Do they have fall?
Well, fall and spring are very similar.
Oh, you don't just drop your fan?
You never drop your fan.
Badooch. Fall. Badooch.
Hey.
What if I want to drop it in front of a gentleman that I'm interested in so he can pick it up and hand it to me and start a conversation?
That's
He
some
can't pick it up.
European bullshit is what
He
that
can't
is.
pick it up. The servants do all of that for you.
You wouldn't be able to move in those fine lady clothing.
Yeah. Japanese clothing is not made for rich people to be able to do anything.
Jack, come here. Pick up my fan.
Oh, I was wondering also, I have a question for the teacher.
Mhm.
So you talked about like essentially this style where it has a block in the middle and then you put some stuff on it to make it pretty, right?
Yes.
What about this style where it's got those tines up in it?
So when I saw those, it was roughly the same time period as those ones that were just that square block.
So these are roughly equivalent in time frame?
From what I've seen, yes. The different spines, I would say, could.
Also, I don't know is a valid answer.
Right. So I don't want to BS you on this, but when I was looking it up in the different kinds of war fans for Japan, that style of fan with the spines that go all the way up is one of the styles that you would have, except it wouldn't be that delicate. It would have been made with either metal or a stronger wood that's like stronger, that would actually be able to be useful in combat, smacking people, you know. Does that answer that question? All right, I'm not sure if there's another class after this, but it is now time for me to go.
Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you, everybody, for teaching. You guys did a great job. I'm so proud of you both.